Hello dear students, welcome back. Here I am going to explain the phylum Mollusca, later phylum Echinodermata and finally phylum Hemichordate. In the next session I will be dealing with the phylum Chordate. Okay. So here I have a cotton and a plate, glass plate, and I am just comparing this cotton to the Mollusca organism. That means it is understood that cotton is very soft. So even the organism which belongs to Mollusca is also very soft. The meaning of mollusca here is nothing but soft bodied organism. You touch octopus or you touch a pillar, that is the apple snail, or maybe dentalium, whatever it is. Even though it is covered by the shell, you just remove the shell and just touch the organism. It's very soft. It's very soft. Okay, to understand that we just draw a basic body plane of the organism like this. Remember it, when I was explaining the phylum Arthropoda, I mentioned cephalization, that is a well distinct head is present in Arthropoda organism. Similarly, the mollusca comes later after Arthropoda, hence they also exhibit cephalization. You just imagine octopus picture. You see the head. Do they have eyes? Yes. A pair of eyes? Yes. Okay. So head is present. A well distinct head is present. Okay. So here we just put two eyes. So head is present here. And I have already explained that the body mainly contains three important parts, that is the salient or important feature of this phylum Mollusca. This is called as muscular foot. I just write MF, which is already explained. You remember it? Yes. And this particular body on the dorsal side, it is covered with a small structure. Here we take this glass plate and keep it on this cotton like this. Yes. Okay. So what do you call this? This is called as mantle. Mantle, and this particular ventral side contains muscular foot. So muscular foot, next comes mantle, right? Yes, on the dorsal side. But between the mantle and this particular structure, what do you call this particular structure? This particular structure is nothing but called as visceral hump. Actually, the meaning of visceral is smooth. Got it? Our stomach is made up of visceral muscles. What is the other name of visceral muscle? Smooth muscles. So meaning of visceral is nothing but smooth. Okay, so we write here smooth. Visceral hump is present here. This is the visceral hump, and this is nothing but the mantle. So three terms you need to remember: mantle, visceral hump, and muscular foot. Muscular foot is for locomotion. Okay, between this visceral hump and the mantle, there is a gap. You could see a space. This is visceral hump and this is the mantle. The mantle and visceral hump is covered with, or it's filled with a type of cavity called as mantle cavity. So this is mantle cavity. Okay. Mantle cavity. Now the question is, what is the function of mantle cavity? The mantle cavity contains feathery structures. Looks like a feather, like this. Feathery structures present within the mantle cavity, and this mantle cavity does a very important function, that is nothing but respiration. So mantle cavity does this function, respiration, takes care of this respiration, that is intake of oxygen and removal of carbon dioxide. Okay, so these feathery-like structures are nothing but called as gills. So gills take care of respiration. But in this particular mollusca, the gills can also be called as ctenidium or ctenidia. See the word. Don't get confused with the cnidarians, okay, or cnidoblast. This is a different term, that is ctenidia. Ctenidia is nothing but the gills of the mollusk, which is present within the mantle cavity. Are you getting my point? Yes? Hope you understood this. Ctenidia is nothing but gills, which does this function, respiration. Okay, we go to the next important part, that is excretion. So, which particular part takes care of this excretion? Removal of ammonia. See, you have to remember this. Ammonia is the major excretory product of all aquatic organisms. If the animal survives in aquatic condition, they excrete only ammonia. Got it? Ammonia. So I'll write here only in aquatic condition. If this particular mollusca or any other organism actually survives in the terrestrial condition, then they excrete uric acid or urea. But in the case of mollusca, excretion could be 90% are aquatic, so they actually secrete or release, not secrete, release ammonia as their excretory product. But still, the terrestrial mollusca excrete uric acid. Can you write this? Got it? Easy. Which particular organ acts like excretory organ here? Okay, let me just give you the evolution of our kidney. See, I have got a very good, well-developed and well-functioned kidney, right? Okay, so the thing is, the main function of the kidney is to excrete the nitrogenous waste material from the body. Okay, it's very, very important physiological process. It has to be done, otherwise the individual cannot survive. I have got a pair of kidneys, right kidney, left kidney, and this type of kidney is well developed. It is the final stage of the kidney formation. Got it? It is actually the last kidney. Okay, after this you will not see any further evolution in the kidney. That means kidney also exhibited this evolutionary pattern. Okay, the first kidney which were formed in the early life during its evolution course called as protonephridia. Next is mesonephridia, and the last one is metanephridia. See, in our body, in human beings, or if you take any mammals, the kidneys are called as metanephric kidney or metanephridia. Got it? This is the last and highly developed stage of the kidney. Protonephridia is the initial stage. You see them in lower invertebrates. Even actually the mesonephridia normally seen in chordates, but lower chordates like tunicata, cephalochordata. Got it? Okay. But you don't see them in vertebrates. Got it? Okay. Metanephridia is higher vertebrates. But this particular mollusca organism exhibits metanephridia, that is a pair of well-developed kidney.Got it? So what type of kidney they have? Metanephric kidney they have. So we'll write here mollusca, they have metanephric kidney, metanephridia. Got it? Okay. What is the other name in the NEET examination? They obviously give a question and options will be given, and the option could confuse you. Got it? You stick to metanephric term. Okay. But the metanephridia or metanephric kidney in mollusca can also be called as, we write here, organ of Vajanus. See the name. If you get any option like this or organ of Vajanus, it should be understood that it is nothing but the kidney of mollusca. It has got one more name. Metanephridia also got one more name in mollusca, that is Kabir's organ. Got it? Kabir's organ. Hope you understood this. So you have to stick to respiration and expiration, and other characteristics you know that, correct? Okay. Now the question is, in the competitive examination you may get a question that name the mollusca where a well distinct head is absent. Which particular mollusca doesn't have a well distinct head? That means it will not exhibit cephalization. Majority of the mollusca exhibit cephalization, that is a well distinct head. But there is a particular mollusca which is called as the pillar. Apple snail doesn't have or exhibit cephalization. That means no well distinct head. Right, this one could be asked. This is one exception from the phylum mollusca organisms. Got it? Okay. Next important thing is, which particular organism in mollusca exhibit metamerism? Not all the organism which belongs to mollusca will exhibit metamerism. Remember it. Got it? Only few exhibit metamerism. That is external as well as internal metamerism. So we write here the name of the organism is Neopilina. Neopilina is a type of mollusca which exhibit segmentation or metamerism. So we write segmentation. A well-distinct segmentation is present in a type of mollusca called as Neopilina. These are the terms you need to remember. Got it? Okay, we'll erase it. We'll see something. What you call for the blood of the mollusca? Similar to arthropoda, the blood can be called as hemocoel. Okay, hemocoel. Particularly, some hemocoel can be mixed with copper pigments. Okay, so we write hemocyanin can also be the blood of mollusca. Hemocoel or hemocyanin, both are there. Got it? Okay, similar to arthropoda. Okay, next we talk about its nervous system. What is the type of nervous system in the case of arthropod? They have paired ganglia. A pair of nerve cords which are normally solid. Correct? A double solid nerve cord. Here also same. Here also exactly same, but they have three pairs of ganglia. Please notice. In the case of mollusca, they have three paired ganglia, three pairs of ganglia. Got it? For example, the first pair of the ganglia normally present within the head. Okay, within the head, just above the mouth part. That is actually called as cerebral ganglia. Second type is just below the mouth of the mollusca called as the pedal ganglia. Just remember it. Third one is normally in the visceral hump region, that is called as the visceral ganglia. So they have three pairs of ganglia. Okay, cerebral ganglia, pedal ganglia and visceral ganglia. That's it. Easy to remember, right? Okay. So here just write down this. You have to remember this class, particularly from the phylum Mollusca, Cephalopoda. The example for Cephalopoda is nothing but octopus. Normally, the term octopus, the devilfish, which is already mentioned in your NCERT textbook. So there is a high chance of asking or selecting this question for your competitive examination. Got it? Octopus. Here, remember Cephalopoda. What is the meaning of cephalo? Means a well-distinct head is present. Octopus does. They have head? Yes, they have well-distinct head. So they should belong to the class called as Cephalopoda. Got it? So it's a class. There are 6 classes. I am not going to explain all, but it is not necessary at all. It's a waste of time. Okay, so you stick to this octopus. What is the specialty of this octopus? The main specialty is it is the only mollusca organism that will not produce calcareous shell. So it will not have or contain shell. So we know that all mollusca will have shells except octopus. Octopus doesn't secrete calcium carbonate, hence there is no shell formation. Easy? Okay, so this is the thing. Okay, the next is its sensory organ. The mollusca sensory organ is mainly contains osphadia, a type of cells which are nothing but chemoreceptors. They can take up the chemicals and they can respond to the environment. So that is called as osphadia, is nothing but a chemoreceptor. Just remember. And we all know that they have well developed nervous system. Yes, we have already studied about it. And they have a pair of eyes. That is also a sensory organ. And osphadia is present. That is a type of chemoreceptor. I think no need to explain about it. Done. Now, important thing is this could be asked. We all know that mollusca normally exhibit indirect development. That means larval stage is present. Yes. Okay. What we write here is the larva of the mollusca is also called as trophophore larvae. The name of the larva of mollusca is trychophore. Very important, very, very important. I am stressing this point. Please note this. Okay. What is the larva of Pila globosa? Pila, apple snail. What is the larva of Pila globosa or apple snail? That is called as Veliger. Veliger is the larva of Pila. So remember it. Trychophore larvae and Veliger larvae. These are the two terms you need to remember it. That's all about it actually. So that's all about from the phylum Mollusca. Just I'll add one more thing. That is another class could be asked called as Gastropoda. What is the meaning of gastro? Gastro means stomach. Poda means appendages or legs or locomotor structure. So with the help of the stomach they can move. Which particular organism belongs to Gastropoda? Pila. Snail, have you seen snails? How do they locomote? How do they move? With the help of their muscular foot. That is nothing but, it looks like as if they are taking the help of their ventral side. That is nothing but stomach part. That is gastro. Gastropoda is nothing but Pila. Okay, so remember Gastropoda, example Pila. Cephalopoda, example octopus, devilfish. Done. So that's all about from the phylum Mollusca. Okay, now in the phylum Arthropoda, I had explained everything, but one important point, actually two important points I would like to add here. Erase it and I will just tell you. That is about the number of appendages present in scorpion, spider, or dragonfly. Could be asked actually, that's what, because dragonfly is entirely different, belongs to a different class of the arthropod. At the same time, you take this, what you call spider and the scorpion also belongs to another class, correct, Arachnida class. Okay, and another thing is they exhibit one important feature. Actually, how come I forgot it? I don't know. I should have mentioned it, but I forgot. Please write on this. In Arthropoda, they exhibit a character called as ecdysis. See the term? They have a character called as ecdysis. In other words, it can also be called as molting. Where? I'll write here. In the phylum Arthropoda, not Mollusca. Arthropoda, they exhibit this ecdysis or molting. What is this molting? Very simple. Have you seen cockroach? Okay, so entire body of the cockroach, the actual arthropod, they are made up of chitinous exoskeleton. They don't have endoskeleton. Only exoskeleton is there. Okay, after some days, normally they stay somewhere else on the wall, and you see only exoskeleton remains, whereas inside the exoskeleton you don't see the animal. Have you seen white cockroaches? Yes, right? When they shed their exoskeleton, that is brown in color, and after that shedding they just escape from that exoskeleton, and initially their color will be white, but later again they start forming the exoskeleton, that is chitinous exoskeleton, that gives brown color to the cockroach. So in all the arthropods, majority of the arthropods, shedding of the skin, that is exoskeleton, will be seen. Got it? That is called as ecdysis or molting. So it is very, very important characteristic of the phylum Arthropoda. I don't know how come I forgot this. Please note this. It is nothing but shedding, removal. It's like skin casting in the case of snakes. Similar. Okay, it's for Arthropoda the term is ecdysis. Okay, shedding of exoskeleton. That's it. Got it? Okay, next is about the appendages, number of appendages present in scorpion. How many pairs? 4 pairs? Yes? Okay. Then spider, 4 pairs. Could be asked actually, that's it. Okay. And we go with one more, dragonfly. Dragonfly belongs to which class? Insecta. All insects have 3 pairs of legs, appendages. So 3 pairs. That's it. For example, in the NEET, you may get a question like how many paired legs are present in mosquito. Mosquito belongs to insecta. That is 3 pairs. Arachnida, scorpion and spider, 4 pairs. Total how many appendages? 8. Got it? Obviously, they have a paired antennae, that is also there. Antony is very important characteristic of phylum Arthropoda. Yes, yes. Okay, so that's all about it. I forgot to mention in the phylum Arthropoda. Please take it, add it to the notes. That is Arthropoda. Okay, hope you understood this phylum. Are you ready for the next phylum? Phylum Echinodermata. Very simple. If you get any questions in the NEET regarding the phylum Echinodermata, just have to imagine the body plane of the starfish. Just imagine starfish. Done? Okay. If you know the characteristics of the starfish, then it's very easy. You can answer any type of questions related to the Echinodermata. I had already explained the salient features of the phylum Echinodermata in the regular class. So here we have to see some other features which was not explained in the previous or regular class. Got it? Okay. One more phyla is left, that is phylum called as Hemichordata. I will complete that in this session itself. Okay. First we write the larval stages, very important. The larval names of the organisms which belongs to the phylum Echinodermata. First we write the larvae of starfish. Okay, so starfish is our model organism for the phylum Echinodermata. Okay, so starfish larvae is called as Bipinnaria. Bipinnaria is the larvae of starfish. Number one, we have got to learn two more larvae names. That is, we go with second organism which belongs to the same phylum called as sea urchin. Even you can also write sea cucumber. Both sea urchin and sea cucumber have same larvae, that is called as auricularia. What do you call? Auricularia. Okay. Next one, the third and the last one is the feather star. Feather star. The larvae is called as Doliolaria. Doliolaria is the larval name of the feather star. Okay. So you have to remember the examples and its common name from all the phyla. In the previous in the mollusca phylum, I did not give the examples, but the examples were given in the regular class. Okay, so you have to remember that also. Fine. Next is, what is important in the phylum Echinodermata? Just imagine starfish, so we will draw the diagram of starfish. This is the anus part. That means it is understood that where exactly you see the anus in starfish? Dorsal surface or ventral surface? On the dorsal surface. Okay, so we just draw its dorsal surface. Starfish, this is dorsal surface. D. What is this? Anus. Very important. I am stressing this. Could be asked. Whereas I am going to draw one more diagram. This is the mouth, which is situated on its ventral surface. The surface you cannot see it, only the dorsal surface is visible. Okay, ventral surface, that is the lower side of the starfish. So this is mouth, ventral surface. Got it? Okay. Now, what is important in these Echinodermata? We just write a term called as autotomy. One. The second term you need to remember, that is evisceration. See the terms. Autotomy and evisceration are very important characteristic of the phylum Echinodermata, and it's very special. It may astonish you. Okay, so what is this autotomy? Autotomy is nothing but, see, we just take this starfish. Now I'll just erase this one. Okay, they exhibit a wonderful defense mechanism if any predator attacks the starfish. Okay, for example, this particular arm is already eaten by a predator. Okay, so this is the predator P. Okay, these two arms are inside the mouth of the predator. Remaining three arms are outside. Okay, the trick which is exhibited by these starfishes, or particularly Echinodermata, is very simple. They simply detach from these two arms which are already inside the predator's mouth. Okay, they escape. These three arms now get detached from the two arms. So these three arms now we'll write 1, 2 and 3. See, they escape. Got it? The predator thinks that it has engulfed, that is taken, eaten everything that is actually of the body of the starfish. Everything is engulfed, but it is being tricked by the starfish. Only 2 arms went inside the mouth of this predator, whereas the remaining 3 arms escaped. What's the fate of this? What's going to happen to this particular 3 arms? That is actually called as autotomy. Autotomy is nothing but it is the detachment of the arms by the starfish or echinodermata as a defense mechanism to escape from the predator. It's a trick. Okay. So whereas these 3 things now show a very, very important characteristic like planaria. What is the characteristic of planaria? Regeneration. So starfish also exhibit a very good or high capacity of regeneration. So they are going to form the last part of their body. That's it. Okay. So it doesn't matter that if I cut this also, it's going to regenerate this particular arm, or if I cut, it's going to regenerate. So they can go for this method, that is autotomy. Got it? Whenever they are in trouble, and because they know that they have the capacity of regeneration. So we write it. Regeneration is one of the important characteristics of the phylum Echinodermata, particularly in starfish. Done? Easy? Okay. What is this evisceration? Evisceration is normally a mechanism exhibited by angry echinoderms when they are very angry. Got it? If a predator is actually attacking these echinoderms, and sometimes they also become very angry, or maybe like a male echinoderm is fighting with a female echinoderm. Not female, normally they don't fight with female, another male with another male. Okay, so during that moment, one particular organism, that is male echinoderm, now actually omits all its visceral organs. Whatever they have right inside, like visceral organs, everything will be vomited out. Why? To scare away the another male organism. That's it. It's only exhibited by angry echinoderms. Evisceration. What is evisceration? It is nothing but vomiting the visceral organs. Once they vomit, that doesn't mean that everything goes out. No, they can take it back. Okay, you can check it in the YouTube. What is evisceration in echinoderms, or how exactly autotomy is seen in echinoderms. You can check it out. Okay, there are wonderful videos are available. You can just watch the video. Done. Next, please write down this 2 things. Please write down high capacity of regeneration is also one of the important characteristic of the phylum Echinoderms, especially seen in starfishes. Okay. Now we talk about the starfish. One important character, that is, we just write, they normally take food with the help of water vascular system. Yes, water canal system in the case of phylum Porifera. This is water vascular system. It is entirely different. Simply water will not enter into the starfish and escape. No. Got it? So they will maintain some pressure inside the body of the echinoderms. Because of the pressure, they can move. Got it? With the help of feet called as tube feet. Okay, we'll explain it. Water vascular system, by taking one example, that is starfish. So here, first what I do is I draw a ring here. So this is the pipe. The pipe is actually called as the radial canal. So I'll just write it, a radial canal, because it is radial in shape. Radial canal. Okay, and let us just imagine this is the main body of the starfish, and here what we have is the arms, correct? We have 5 arms. So instead of drawing the arms, let me just draw a pipe. So this is one pipe where one arm is situated. This is another pipe. This is the third pipe. Okay, so this is another pipe, and finally we will put one more pipe here, like this. There will be so many pipes like this. Got it? Okay. So now here you see at regular intervals in these pipes you see small pipes, that is network of pipes coming out like this. Like this. Okay. And each pipe, a small pipe which is coming out of the main pipe, will end up with a small sac-like structure like this, I think no need to draw it. It's like imagine, okay. So this is called as the ampulla. Ampulla, got it? Okay, this is tiny structures are called as the ampulla. Okay, see, for example, if I draw the structure of the ampulla, this is actually the dorsal side where anus is situated. What you see on the ventral side where mouth is situated, that is, I'm talking about the ampulla's ventral side. So, for example, if I just draw the ampulla, so this is the dorsal view of the ampulla. The ventral view will be like this. So this is the dorsal side and this is the ventral side. And this is actually called as the tube feet. What do you call? Tube feet. Okay, we write here tube feet. So locomotion in starfish or echinoderms mainly by tube feet. Write down this one. Locomotion is mainly by the tube feet. This locomotion by the tube feet is mainly because of the continuous movement of the water. So water normally taken by the mouth and it enters into this radial ring or radial canal, and after that it enters into the main pipe like this. Okay, you could see the pipe system like this. Okay, once this goes, the water goes inside this pipe, obviously it will enter into these tiny pipes where it contains ampulla. Okay, water is here now. Now the water also now moves towards the tube feet. What do you see? Now tube feet is now pressurized. Got it? So because of the continuous movement of the water, it is nothing but called as water vascular system. Got it? Water vascular system. The tube feet now starts to move. Okay, have you seen starfish moving? Like this. They move like this. They take the help of the tube feet. Okay, so tube feet is or like mainly becomes active only when water is present inside. That's how actually called as water vascular system. Easy. Okay, so now we'll complete the diagram. Done. Starfish. Okay. So next important characteristic of the phylum Echinoderm. Let me just erase it. Brain or nervous system. Actually, in the phylum Echinodermata, whatever the organism you see, it doesn't have brain. Note this point. No brain in Echinodermata. No brain. Then what they have for their sensory? So we take this itself. So this is actually the radial ring, right, which is helpful in the movement of the water that builds up the water vascular system inside the starfish. Exactly here you see another ring. The ring will be seen. This is actually called as the nerve ring. So what do you call? Instead of brain, they have a ring-like structure called as nerve ring. Okay, nerve ring will be there. That is actually along with the radial canal. That is entirely different. Okay, so this nerve ring again continues inside like this. Like this. Oh, sorry. Yeah, like this. So nerves are now occupied within this tube. Got it? Okay, so how many nerves are there? Main one nerve ring, one here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 linear nerves will be there. That runs within the long tube. Okay, so that is actually, you write nerve ring is present instead of brain. So there is no brain. Got it? Okay. What about excretion? They do not have any excretory system like mollusca or arthropoda. In arthropoda, malpighian tubules play an important role in excretion. Okay, but in the case of this Echinodermata, you don't see any excretory system, only simple diffusion because water vascular system is there. But remember it, what is the type of nitrogenous waste which will be excreted during excretion process? What type of nitrogenous waste? Can you tell me now? These are 100% marine organisms. So what they excrete? Ammonia. Yes, correct. So ammonia. They excrete ammonia. What about their respiration? Simple diffusion through body surface. Only diffusion. Got it? Okay. They don't have any wonderful respiratory system. So just diffusion is the thing. Just you write it. Diffusion. Now this is very important. Very, very important. Please note this point. About the symmetry. We know that these are actually coelomates and they are triploblastic. They have 3 germ layers. We know it. Okay. Are they schizocoelomates or eucoelomates, or sorry, enterocoelomates, echinoderms. Think about it. Okay. Next is I'm talking about the symmetry. Write the symmetry. See, when you take the larvae of starfish called as the bipinnaria, okay, so we just draw the bipinnaria larvae. This is the larvae of the starfish called as bipinnaria. I'll write B, bipinnaria. As they mature, they will be like this. That is nothing but you are not changing their entire symmetry. So, in the larval stage, in echinoderms, the larva will be showing bilateral symmetry. Yes. This is very important. You will not see the same character in all other phyla. Got it? Only in echinoderms, particularly in starfish, bilateral symmetry in larval stage. Whereas if you take the adult stage, that is starfish, see, from a single plane, I can cut the animal into two equal halves, or maybe like this also, like this also. So, what type of radial symmetry it is? It is radial symmetry, but biradial symmetry. Please note this one. Starfish particularly exhibit biradial symmetry. Done? Not exactly radial symmetry, it is biradial symmetry. Got it? So that's all about from the phylum Echinodermata. I am not going to give you the examples of this Echinodermata, which is already given in the regular class. Okay, now we will discuss the next and the last phylum which belongs to Invertebrata, that is Hemichordata. Okay, we erase this. Last phylum, that is Hemichordata. Here in the NEET you may get a question that is like with the word called as acorn worm. I did not say anything about acorn worm in the regular class. Very simple. Acorn worm is the common name of this called as Balanoglossus. Acorn worm is nothing but Balanoglossus. If any question related to acorn worm, don't get confused. It is nothing but belongs to Hemichordata. Acorn worm, Hemichordata. Okay. The body is worm-like. The body has three parts. Do you remember it? What is this? Proboscis. Proboscis. What is the function of proboscis? It is the excretory organ in Hemichordate or acorn worm. Name the excretory organ of acorn worm. Proboscis. No confusion. It is nothing but Balanoglossus. Okay. So proboscis. Then comes the trunk part. Oh, sorry. Collar part. Sorry. Collar, and comes the trunk part. Correct? Not a draw a neat label diagram. This is trunk part. So it is understood that even though the name is Hemichordata, that is semi-chordata, that means they exhibit some characteristics of the phylum Chordata, but they are not chordates. Earlier, when the classification was initiated in the earlier stages, this particular phylum Hemichordata was included in Chordata phylum as a subphylum. But now they are entirely separate. The scientists have classified this Hemichordata as invertebrates. So they are not belongs to the phylum Chordata. But still you may find a question related to hemichordates. What is the link between hemichordate and chordate? What is exactly the link? Okay, are they really chordates? No, they are not chordates. Okay. The thing is, first thing is, what is the important characteristic of the phylum Chordata? The thing is, they have a post-anal tail. Yes. Heart is ventral. Do you remember it? Yes. Okay. Here, the heart is dorsal. Dorsal heart. So, dorsal heart is actually the important characteristic of all invertebrates. Correct? Lower level organisms. So, one point. Next is, do they have post-anal tail? No, it looks like tail, but it is not tail. It is trunk part. So, post-anal tail is absent. Post-anal tail is absent. Done. The development is indirect. What is it? Indirect development. That means you need to remember this. What is the name of the larva or larvae of this acorn worm? What is the larvae of acorn worm? Tornaria. Very important. Again, Tornaria is the name of the larvae of acorn worm or Hemichordata. I put this word in the box, so it's very important. Got it? Okay. So next is, in the proboscis, they have a structure called as the gills. Okay, so they have gills, that is actually nothing but respiration itself. Okay, fine. Now, do they have blood? Not exactly blood, they have kind of hemocoel. Okay, hemocoel mainly contains a respiratory pigment. What is the respiratory pigment of human beings? Hemoglobin, which carries 4 oxygen molecules. In this case, hemoglobin is not there because they are invertebrates, correct? Okay, lower class organisms. Instead of that, they have a specific respiratory pigment called as vanadium. Please note this again. Vanadium is the respiratory pigment. So we can compare this respiratory pigment to hemoglobin, like us human beings. Okay, so respiration or respiratory pigment. Please note this point again. Respiratory pigment, vanadium, larvae is stornaria, post-anal tail is absent completely. Okay, one more thing here. In the collar region, they have a small rod-like structure which resembles notochord. But remember, in hemichordata, notochord is completely absent. Hence, they are invertebrates. In chordata, notochord should be present, at least in the embryonic stage. Then only they are chordates. But here, a rod-like structure was there. So, is there, not was there, is there. And scientists believe that, okay, it could have belonged to the phylum chordata. But no, got it? Later they discovered that this is not notochord. This is something like rod-like structure. It is not notochord. Present inside the proboscis and collar region. Okay, so we just write notochord-like structure is present. Notochord-like structure is present. This could be the reason why there is hemichordata could be a connecting link between invertebrates, that is lower class organisms, and chordata. That is a connecting link between. You may get a question. Name the connecting link between non-chordata and chordata. Hemichordata. Why? They exhibit notochord-like structure. Not exactly notochord. Notochord-like structure. Maybe the same structure developed into notochord in higher organisms. Then they are called as chordates. Done? Easy? Okay, so that's all about it. Acorn, dorsal heart, yes. Post-anal tail is completely absent. Done. Yes. The last one is nerve ring. We just write. They do not have a well-developed nervous system, but they have nerve ring like starfishes or echinoderms. Please note this one. They have nerve ring. Done? So just write these points along with the points which you write like you took in the regular class. Okay. Chalo then. So that's all about it from this session. Thank you very much. Again, I stress, study very well, concentrate. Thank you.